You open your first 3 locations within your first 5 years. You're on path to fourth, already looking at locations and trying to find a lease for a fifth. That's pretty fast growth rate for anyone in the industry. And there's many people listening to this who are just waiting to open up just a second, and they've been in business for a long time. Even for Mark and I, we waited till, I don't know, 5 or 6 years in to open up our second location. And so you've had a real hunger for growth since the beginning, and you've done it really well. You've made it look, frankly, too easy. Makes me a little mad sometimes, but but I say with love. But I want to just talk through, how you've been doing it, what decision you've made a decision recently to kind of keep going even a little bit faster. So let's just talk. So 5 years, 3 locations. You decided let's go for a fourth and fifth, kind of in rapid succession. Just walk me through that decision making process right there.
Specifically.
Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm super excited to be back on the podcast again for, I don't know, was it the third or fourth time? I stopped counting with our dear friend, fellow Unicorn Society coach, Mr. Chris Travis. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thanks for having me again.
You've really become a regular. I think you probably are hitting some sort of record of on the podcast the most times. So welcome back. How's your summer been?
Good. It's crazy that it's already the end of summer.
Yeah, we're recording this like in end of August, and like September is minutes away.
It's wild. Yeah. But so far so good. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, for folks who maybe missed you on previous podcasts, you want to just talk a little bit about Seattle Strength and Performance, who you are, what you do, so we can get a little context for today's conversation.
Yeah. Gym owner, Seattle Strength and Performance. We're in Seattle. I think I'm going on a little over 5 years now. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary, which was a lot of fun. We are at 3 locations currently active and opening. We're opening a fourth, which hopefully should open in mid-October is what we're targeting.
Yep.
And I'm also a coach with Business for Unicorns.
Yeah, amazing. And before that, you had a background in working corporate America. You worked for Amazon for a while. So you're one of those one of those gym owners who came to running a business with some real business experience, real management experience, some leadership experience, which, as we both know now, as coaches in this space, is somewhat some of a unicorn. And so I think yeah. And so we'll probably talk a little bit about that today. But what I really wanted to bring you on and talk about is exactly what you just mentioned, which is you open your first 3 locations within your first 5 years. You're on path to fourth, already looking at locations and trying to find a lease for a fifth. That's pretty fast growth rate for anyone in the industry. And there's many people listening to this who are just waiting to open up just a second, and they've been in business for a long time. Even for Mark and I, we waited till, I don't know, 5 or 6 years in to open up our second location. And so you've had a real hunger for growth since the beginning, and you've done it really well. You've made it look, frankly, too easy. Makes me a little mad sometimes, but I say with love. But I want to just talk through, how you've been doing it, what decision you've made a decision recently to kind of keep going even a little bit faster. So let's just talk, so 5 years, 3 locations. You decided let's go for a fourth and fifth, kind of in rapid succession. Just walk me through that decision making process right there.
Specifically the fourth and fifth one?
Yeah, like why decide okay, let's do 2 more right away, back to back?
Yeah, it was funny because I recently joined Leadership Society, so shout out to that group, which is a lot of fun, and really like just solid gym owners in that group, a very experienced group of people. And so it's great to kind of bounce ideas off of them. And then part of that is doing this whole deep dive with your business, right? And so obviously as a gym owner, I had to put together a bunch of information, and gotten the call with Mr. Fisher, and really just kind of talk through not only my business, but also where I wanted to go. And I think that was the big reason for me why I joined Leadership Society, was helping myself just drive some clarity around what do I want this to look like. And I think for a while after the third one, I thought, and again, the third one's only been open for like a little over a year, so it hasn't been like a while, but I was thinking, well, maybe I can just chill out. Maybe I can just sit here for a little while. Maybe I just focus on other stuff. Right. And I think that conversation with Mark, and he's very much in the, multi-location mode right now. So I think it was kind of inspiring to hear him talk about that. But I think also I realized for me, I'm 42 now. I feel very much with the level of experience that I have both before being a gym owner and now with the years of experience I have with the gyms, I feel like I'm in my prime. I feel very much like I'm ready to do this. I feel great, and let's just give it a go. And so that's kind of where I netted out. And I'm either going to swing hard or I'm not going to swing is kind of how I work. And so I decided, look, I'm going to go from 3 to 6 in the next year and a half is my target. And then from there, I want to go up to 15 locations is currently what I'm looking at.
No, that's such a great vision, and I'm so glad that you joining Leadership Society and doing like our deep dive call, really was helpful in making that decision. Mm-hmm. That's so many of us. What so many of us need is just some thought partnership. We need someone to create the space and time for us to think about what do I really want, what's holding me back from getting it. If I'm going to swing big, what's it going to look like? And the fact that you decided, okay, I'm going to get to 6 locations in rapid succession, and ultimately I want to get to 15. And you've always had the skills to do it. It's just about getting out of your own way to say, okay, this is the moment. Let's actually go for it. That's amazing. I know one of the decisions you've made since deciding this is to bring someone on your team to really help manage the expansion, because anyone out there who's opened a single gym knows there's a lot of logistics that go into from coordinating with the landlord to logistics with general contractors to doing the pre-sale to hiring the staff. There's so much to coordinate when it comes to opening a gym. And so you decided at some point that you're going to bring on someone to help with expansion. So you just kind of talk through what that role is, what you expect them to do as you keep growing.
Yeah, I think, and this is something new. Like this is an experiment that we're doing, right? And I don't think anybody else. I haven't seen anybody else in the fitness industry do this.
So I think what it seems to me from just my experience of opening up people who have multiple franchises or multiple locations, there seems to be at that level a person whose job it is to be like the advanced team, right? Who's going out and finding locations and getting the head start and opening the thing and then handing it off. And I think you're just starting that at this scale, knowing that you want to get to 15.
Totally,
I think is really smart to start experimenting now with who can be running just 5 steps ahead of us in opening this stuff. Yeah.
And that's pretty much what that is, right? And I think so Michael is his name, and he's great so far. And when I opened this role, I honestly didn't know what kind of profile I was looking for. And he comes with he's an Amazon guy, came from Amazon Experience and Apple, so he kind of has big tech, but he also has a love for fitness, was a coach on the side. So it kind of seemed like the right merger of passion and also skill set. And we had obviously had everything written down. It's like I've opened 3 gyms now. I've written everything down. I know exactly the timelines that we want to hit and the things we want to do in different stages. But I really, just needed somebody to be kind of what I would call is like the single threaded leader, which I know is kind of an Amazon term, but somebody who's just kind of focused on it, right? Who breathes and thinks this thing all the time and can advocate internally for the resources he needs to be able to do that job effectively and hit the dates that we need. And so far, so good. I mean, he's been on the team for about 3 weeks, but I've loved having him. And we feel pretty on target and organized, more organized than we have in any other launch so far, which is better.
Well, that's amazing. This is, again, one of those things that sets you apart as a gym owner is your ability to and willingness to experiment and say, like, listen, I think I need this capacity. If I'm going to grow this quickly, I need someone to kind of manage this part for me so I can keep taking care of my existing team and locations. Who can be just help me run forward in this direction faster? And you went out and found the person, which is incredible. Let's just kind of pull the thread of your kind of timeline and kind of a roadmap for openings. I know you have very detailed plans for pre-launching and what you're looking for in a location. Let's kind of start at the beginning when you're looking now at location 5, trying to find a location. Let's start with timeline. What's a timeline for you to start looking to try and open?
To start looking and trying. So I think obviously it takes a little while to find the right space.
That's the part to be the most flexible because you never know when you're going to find it. Yeah.
And I honestly hate it because I want to move fast. And so I'm very impatient, and so I have to have the right critical eye and like people to hold me accountable to the profile I'm looking for. But I think, we're looking for spaces that are honestly like sub 2,000 square feet. Yep. We know that we can operate really, really effectively in that model. And we're looking for targeting neighborhood pockets in Seattle right now that we just aren't in, right? That just don't know about us. And the cool thing about Seattle is it's a very neighborhoody city.
It is, yeah.
Right? So even you could be in a neighborhood 10, 15 minutes apart from one another, and they still operate pretty independently. Yep. You're pulling from a different customer set. So that's really what I'm looking for. And when I find the space, we move quickly, we sign the lease. Obviously, you have to go through the negotiation process, which might take a little bit of time. And then from there, I'm really targeting lease signing plus 15 weeks. And the reason I think we're able to go pretty aggressively there is because I'm also looking for the profile of a space where I don't have to do a ton of build out.
Sure.
It's largely an empty shell. We can put the turf and flooring down pretty easily. We might have to do a little bit of painting, maybe just a tad bit of contracting, but not a ton, right? I don't want to go through an whole architecture build out and blueprints and permits with the city. It takes too long, and all that kind of stuff. I'd rather have a space that's ready to go largely, and we can just lay down and open up.
Yeah, I think that's so smart. I think that the thing that probably might be surprising to a lot of people listening is you actively looking to stay under 2,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. Can you talk more about that? Which I'm a big fan of, as you know. But can you just talk about your decision to kind of stay small?
Yeah, I think more size, more complexity, right?
Yes.
And I think sometimes it's hard, if you're looking at 10,000 square foot facility or even 5,000, it's hard to fill that up sometimes.
It really is.
It really
is.
It's
expensive.
It's expensive, yeah. And I honestly don't think, especially in an urban environment like Seattle or any other major city, you don't need that much space. What you need is a great location. You need a location that's accessible, and you need to build a community around that. And so all of our spaces are sub 2,000 square feet. All of our training spaces. Our West Seattle one's a little bit larger, but it has like an office space. But I would say the main floor is probably about 2,000 square feet.
Yep.
And we know that we've been effectively able to operate that model. So when I think about scale, plugging and playing, I'm like, well, I'm going to take the same model that I have that I know that works really well, that we've scaled up at 3 locations, and I'm going to plug it everywhere else.
Yeah. I know what that model is. Do you mind just for our listeners sharing what your training actually looks like?
Yeah, we're a small group personal training model. We do what I would call is like the semi-private spin on that, right? Which is we do individualized program design for people.
Yep.
And then we do a very small handful of large group classes a day. We're talking like 2, max 3 at each location. And that's it. So everything is coach based. It's either you're in small group personal training or you're doing a large group class.
Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. All right. So back to opening. So from lease signing to opening, you got 15 weeks. You're looking for under 2,000 square feet. You're looking for spaces that are primarily empty. You can come in and put some turf, paint, throw in some equipment, and get ready to go. What's your pre-sale look like? How are you getting people to commit before you're even opened?
Yeah, great question. We have like an 8-week playbook that we operate from. And obviously there's a piece of this which is actually helpful for hiring Michael, our expansion manager, because we can start some of the pre-sale stuff while we have somebody in the space without having to hire a facility lead to put in there. So we're kind of like moving multiple work streams at the same time, hiring in parallel, which is great. So for us, it starts with, we start honestly with just announcing it, doing a press release, putting it on social media, creating a different social media account, boosting those posts. I think for location 4, we've only done a couple boosts with a press release so far, and we've gotten like 50 leads already just off that little bit of exposure. And then it slowly ramps up, right? So as we get the space in there, we start to ramp up our PR efforts. We start to ramp up our digital marketing efforts. So we have a Google ad that drives. We have Meta ads that drive. And then we also do community stuff. So we actually get out in the community, we shake hands, we try and make partnerships, we do open houses and community workouts, just trying to get people into the space as much as possible. The benefit for us too is, across 3 locations, we have 850 members now. And so the likelihood that one of our members knows somebody who lives in that new neighborhood is very high.
Huge.
So we drive the referral game strong across our current membership base to see if we can drive other people into that location. And that usually ends up with us getting, my target at Open is to have well over 100 leads. So if we get like between 120 and 150, that's great. And then we've at least converted 50 of those into memberships at the opening. And if we can hit those targets, I feel pretty good about our ability to ramp up from there.
Yeah. So what are some of the offers you're making early on? What are the offers to bring new people, referral offers?
Yeah. Honestly, the referral offer is just our like standard referral offers, our evergreen offer, which is $30 to the member for referring, and then $30 off of our trial membership.
Great. Easy.
We, when we first start marketing, we actually don't make we will give people a discount off of our trial membership. So it's normally $199 for 3 weeks. We give them at $149. So it's a slight discount, right? If they sign up early, but it's not crazy. As we get going, so let's say we hit about 50 people at that offer once they sign up. Immediately after we open, we're going to go back to those unconverted prospects, and we're going to make them like a very highly attractive offer to see if we can get them into the gym. Usually that looks like a $1 trial, right? Just to try and lower the barrier as much as possible, get them to experience it. At the same time, what we're doing with those people who signed up is about midway through their trial, we're making them an offer to say, hey, are you having a great experience? If you are, we're going to give you your first 4 weeks free if you sign up for an annual membership right now and cut your trial short. And we usually get pretty high conversion off that. So again, it's like driving stability in that location's business by converting people into annual memberships while also trying to drive more people in the door at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you're keeping it simple. I love there's not too many bells and whistles, not too many extreme offers early on. You don't need them. You don't need them. A great location, great service speaks for itself. And now you have this growing reputation in your city, which makes, which makes you even more valuable, which is amazing. All right. So let's assume all that's going well. And you open, excuse me, I'm going to cough. And you open with, let's say, 50 people or more on day one. Can you talk a little bit about the ramp up of staff? How do you start from day one of opening all the way through till this place is packed? What's the staff growth look like?
Yeah, great question. So I actually I will hire 2 full-time people right away. And those 2 full-time people will work in that location until we hit a certain benchmark. And the 2 roles are, there's a full-time, what I call facility lead, really kind of like a general manager of that location. And then there's a kind of more junior coach who operates in kind of a program design role, working with our members that way. The facility lead does most of the prospect follow-up, membership activation, all of that kind of stuff. And then they partner together. So it's 2 full-time roles and they split the schedule. They will operate basically until we hit about 175 members. And at that point, what I do is I actually add a 3rd full-time role, which is called a membership person or a membership specialist. And their job is really just to kind of siphon off the work that the facility lead is doing on the membership side. So at that point, we have a pretty big membership base and really start to drive retention efforts, drive more community activations, drive more membership check-ins, all of that kind of stuff to increase our retention.
That's great. I think the part that people are listening are going to want me to go back to, so I'm going to do this because I imagine is, wait, you're telling me that you can have 175 members with only 2 full-time staff. How's that possible, Chris Travis?
Yeah. So we, if we look at our, like a standard small group, let's say small group personal training gym schedule, right? We're looking at, we open at 6 a.m. So we do like a 6 to 10 or 11 a.m. block every day. We'll do some kind of like lunchtime activity around noon, and then we'll reopen at 4 and we'll go to like 8, right? So you're really looking at, let's say 4, 8, 9 to 10 hours a day where you have to operate. Really what that looks like is one person starts, they go, 6 a.m., kind of like maybe to midday. The other person comes in midday, and then they go through the evening. And that's how we run the schedule. We also do 6 to 1. So we have 6 clients in at a time. The other thing that we do, however, is we will stagger sessions. So what that looks like is our sessions should be about 45, 50 minutes. We advertise 45. And so let's say a group comes in at 7 a.m. They start their session. They do their warm up. They go through all of the stuff. At the 30-minute mark at 7:30, another group rolls in. So the group starts to warm up, right? And so they're warming up for a good like 7 to 10 minutes while the other group is finishing up. By the time they get ready to come into the main section of the gym and start their session, the other group is almost done, right? So they're kind of like rolling out, doing their conditioning and kind of getting out of the gym. And so we try and create this kind of like constant roll in the gym. And so if you were in one of our facilities, it'd be like you would see a group at 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30, 9, right? And just like a consistent flow of people. And we run that with one coach.
Yeah, I think that's the big part of the magic to your model, right? Is that most people are just doing it on the hour with a group. So you're really doubling your capacity in that morning and evening times, double than what most people are doing. And under 2,000 square feet, you can manage that churn, that kind of cycle of people coming in and out, which I think is just so smart. So yeah, that's amazing. So you got the 2 coaches, both doing kind of hybrid roles, both spending time on the floor and some time off the floor, some responsibilities outside of that. What happens with your group of 2 until you get to that 175 number? What happens when someone gets sick or calls out? Whose responsibility is that?
Great question. Yeah, we have a what we call is like a coverage matrix. And so when somebody goes out, we have people that, I don't want to get too much in detail, but we'll help people shift up or shift down, right? And we'll take people from other facilities and shift them into different slots. We also, in like an emergency, we have a central team composed of me and sales and membership experience manager and my chief of staff and the expansion person. One of these people can, in a pinch, move over and cover as well. So
makes sense.
Usually, like, in most cases, we don't have to cancel sessions unless there's like a horrible, dire emergency.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's the benefit of the scale you have now, is that there's people, other locations who can come on over and help out. I think it's hard for anyone listening when you're on your first location. There's just two people. It usually means if you as the owner are not one of those two people, you're jumping in to help. And I'm sure you had many years where that was the case.
100%.
All right. Well, let me just touch on one more topic before we start to wrap things up here. I think another big part of expansion is funding. A lot of the thing that holds people back is like, I really opened that second location, but from down payment to build out to carrying costs to you name it, it's just a lot of money up front. So can you just talk a little bit about what your approach has been to funding this growth?
Yeah, great question. I think so I'll go back and tell a story when I went from 1 to 2. I think the second is the hardest. It's the hardest by far. And the first one, I'd only been open maybe about 15 months before I decided to go to the second one, which I know is pretty aggressive. And it was profitable, but I didn't have nearly enough cash flow to be able to cover a full expansion of the second location. So I had to, at that point, I looked at SBA and a couple other things, but I just decided to go the route of line of credit and just try and pay that back in a pretty aggressive schedule. That honestly, what happened was once I got a little bit of scale and we spent some time growing the first and second locations, I started to generate enough cash flow where I could do this on a single expansion without really having to impact the rest of the business. Amazing. So number 3, I just used cash flow from the existing business and we opened number 3 without really any incidents or issues. I mean, and that one scaled up now. So now the business is big enough where theoretically I have enough cash flow to be able to do these things. But I'm also looking at ways that I can use my money a little bit more effectively. So I am actually, one of the things that I've done is get a securities-backed LLC.
Great.
This one, which makes sure that I can generate more funds and also leverage money in a different way. I did look at SBA for these next expansions, but SBA honestly didn't want to give me as much money as I wanted to go from 3 to 6, right?
Yeah,
they
of course.
typically want to be a little safer and go location by location. And so I was looking for a big chunk of money that I could expand pretty quickly. And that the LLC helped me do that.
Yeah, good for you. I think it's a great lesson to many people out there that if you keep the model lean enough, you keep your build out costs low enough, you look for a space that is just exactly what you need, but no more, right? Yeah. You do all those things, then build out costs and a second location is it's not a huge number. Doesn't have to cost what many people spend to open a gym if you keep it simple and lean, and then you can self fund after you get a few locations going, which is a big part of your success story.
And just
here.
For context, like our locations tend to hit break even by month 5, maybe month 6.
Yep.
And so our total cost, including startup costs to get the location going, plus the operational ramp to get up to 6 months, is only about $140,000.
Yeah.
Which is
so
great.
Doable. Yeah, 100%. I think if you have even just decent credit, you can get a line of credit for something around that amount. Certainly SBA loans might be the perfect path for other people. But for a lot of folks, gym owners I talk to, a lot of Unicorn Society members I talk to, they all just did like a friends and family raised money. They just got some, for only $150K, there's a lot of people who will just give you that, to be a silent partner or just to get a little bit percentage back. And so I think, if you keep your build out costs and operations streamlined, then you really can self-fund a lot of expansion, which is pretty remarkable. All right. Anything that you think about when it comes to your expansion that is really critical that I didn't ask about yet?
I don't think so. I mean, obviously we didn't touch on the hiring, but that's a big component, right? Is hiring the right people. We could do a whole podcast on that.
I'm sure we can. We probably will.
That's the whole thing. But, hire the right people. That's my takeaway. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think, and the thing that's great about you at this point, not only did you come to being a gym owner with some experience hiring, but you're just getting a lot more reps in as you grow and scale. It's one of the challenges with many of the people listening is that if you own a single location, you're probably only hiring a few times, maybe once or twice a year. right? Depending on how big your team is, that's just not a lot of reps. That's just, not getting a lot of chances to practice your interview skills, to know what you're looking for, to really examine resumes, et cetera, et cetera. And so the fact that you've now done this dozens of times, just with your existing gym, and you already came with lots of experience, means you probably built a really great hiring system. I know you have, actually. And we'll talk about it, I'm sure, on another podcast. But I think it's a great final thought, which is just make sure that as you're building, if you decide to grow and scale, that you really think about, this is a people first business.
It is.
We sell relationships and results. So if you don't have the right people in those seats to build relationships with your community, you're dead in the water, and I know I've met your team. They're all amazing. And so you've done that so well. Yeah. Good for you. Awesome, my friend. Well, thanks for the great conversation. As always, congratulations on, getting number 4 off the ground. I know number 5 is just around the corner. I'm rooting for you every day, here to support you. And I'm sure I'll have you back on the podcast many more times to continue to share your story. So thanks for your time, Mr. Chris Travis. And dear listeners, I will see you on the next one.
Thank you.